But we're also on tape. We always have been and we always will be, unless Magic Mike kicks us out. We are in beautiful, state-of-the-art Studio 2. It's a scorcher in here. It's balmy in Lee's music, and I love the show today. Chris, why don't you talk about who you're bringing on today first?
We're just going a little bit to the community side with my segment. We're talking to Ashley Sudds. She's the executive director of the Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association, a really, really neat organization that runs therapeutic horseback riding for youth at risk, people with disabilities, and they're right out by the airport.
And for me, I don't often get nervous before interviews, but I did for this one. Don Teitur, he's a hero of mine. He's a legend of BC broadcasting. We're going to hear from him and another legend, local legend. KTW reporter Michael Potestio is going to join us. Now, you might notice something different about the set today. We have a brand new title sponsor, New Leaf Produce Market, and we're going to meet Herman Hothi, the owner, right now. Herman, you got to look at the camera. This way. Stand still. Yeah, I know there's people in the shot. It's fine. It's a busy place. My name's Marty Hastings at Kamloops last week. I'm here with my new best friend, Herman Hothi, proud owner of New Leaf Produce Market, and it's an absolute scorcher of a day here in Kamloops. But it's no sweat for Herman, is it? This man, he's as cool as a cucumber. And why would Herman be sweating when he knows his deals are so hot, when he knows his produce is straight fire?
Working for you?
Yeah, it's working okay. He's a super nice guy. He's awesome. You hear that? Herman Hothi. Hell of a nice guy. I want to see where his produce comes from. I want to see the farms that he puts so much love into. So guess what, Herman? You and I, we're going on a road trip. Let's go, buddy. Herman, you got to buckle up, okay? Gonna work. What's that, Herman? Yeah, I know. More than 40 local suppliers, and we're gonna meet a few of them next week. Nothing like a good road trip. In you get, Herman. Well, in all seriousness, Herman didn't want to be on camera, so we thought we'd have some fun with it. He wants to feature his freshest produce every single Wednesday on our show, and this is today's catch. I went down there this morning, I talked to Herman. We've got beets, carrots, zucchini, kale, radish. We're going to give this thing away too.
And parsnip.
And parsnip. I didn't know that. Thank you very much. We're going to give this away. First person to email KLW@kamloopsthisweek.com, and also subscribe to Kamloops Last Week on YouTube. This is going to be yours. Shoot me an email. I actually am going to go down to the coast as well. I'm going to see one of the farms that Herman sources from. I'm also going to go to his farm, Heffley Farms, and that's where this is from. This is from Heffley, very close to us, so it is local. And we're going to have a new commercial next week. And if you're worried about Herman right now, he's in my Jimmy. We have the windows down for him. It's hot outside. Our next guest doesn't quite have the lettuce he used to, but he's certainly not a lemon either. Don Teitur. Chris, why don't we just start with your thoughts about Don Teitur?
Oh, Don Teitur, he's a beaut. He's a legend. I grew up in Abbotsford, and a night wasn't complete until you watched Sports Page, Channel 13 CKVU, and Don Teitur with all his sayings and euphemisms, and then I followed him to Sportsnet, and then he was unceremoniously dumped there, and I followed him to 1040, and I'm still watching him now with Dolly Wall on and listening on Check TV. He is the preeminent sportscaster of my generation, and I know yours as well.
Yeah, for me, I used to work at a restaurant called Luna Loca, kitchen manager, until I threw a lily pad onto Highway 10 and mopped the floor with oil. But I could time my day by what was on 1040, Rome in the morning, then Brooke Ward, then Taylor and Pratt in the afternoon, and with Sportsnet too. He just endeared himself to me with his humor. He really had a BC sense of humor too. Back when we had true local sports broadcasting, and he hit home with a lot of my friends, and it was a pleasure for me to talk to him, and we're going to see some of that interview right now. Yeah, Don Teitur, I promise you I'm not going to fanboy throughout the whole interview, but I do have a chance here, a rare chance, just to let you know that you've been a huge influence on me. You've been a huge influence on a lot of my buddies. You were required listening and viewing for me growing up, and you're a big reason why I'm in the business. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and that'll be all the fanboying I do for the session here.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. It means I'm old, but that's okay. I'm still kicking, still doing okay in the business, and I just wanted to make sure that I was different than everybody. And there's so many people who are the same in this business, and everybody seems to be reading off the same script. And I think if you can do something a little bit different, a little bit creative, when you're doing a highlight package, which for some people seems a little mundane, I think that's really important. It's somehow separate yourself from somebody, from other broadcasters out there, and to do that with humor or just with memories that you have, things that you enjoyed. Take a chance every once in a while.
Does it get annoying, and I'm going to be that guy right now, when people come up to you and say, do you remember when you did this? And one example for me is, for a while you were mixing in Gary Volk puns into so many, he walks the blue line. do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Gary's such a great guy. I knew he would take it well, and he's so perfect. Like he's maybe the best looking guy in the world, and also he played in the NHL. So he's got enough going to him that, hey, if you gave him a shot every once in a while, I think he'll be okay.
He's got that jawline. He just has everything going for him. He deserves it. Shots.
It really is amazing.
But I want to ask you about the sports media landscape in BC and how it's changed, but maybe we just start with D-Day for 1040 and how jarring of a day was that for you, and what really stands out about that day for you?
Marty, you have no idea. We had no idea it was coming. As a matter of fact, I was driving into work and got a call I wasn't listening to the station at the time. If I was, I would have heard canned music. But I got a call from a friend of mine on a construction site in Richmond. And he said to me, what's with your station? They're playing canned music right now. And I've been around long enough. I knew that this is not a good thing. So, they locked up the station on us. It was really, really poorly done. I think they'd like to have that back. But when I say you have no idea how bad the day was, I also wasn't feeling good that day. I'd coached a hockey practice the night before, in a freezing cold Port Moody arena, and just felt off. So I go into work the next morning, find out myself and all my friends and coworkers had lost their jobs as well. And then just because I wasn't feeling 100%, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go get tested for COVID. And I found out I had COVID that day.
No way.
Yeah, so it was February 9th, 2021. Not the greatest day of my life. So it took me a while to recover from the shock of being let go, because I was worried about my health, physical health, so much at the time. So there was a lot that day that went on. Here's the thing, is that because of what happened to us, all of us, there was a lot of hugging going on and crying.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think I was agent zero when it came to 1040. A bunch of people that day got COVID, not just me. And I'm pretty sure I'm the one who gave it to them because, we had our masks on and everything, but it was emotional. People were hugging and stuff like that. So it wasn't just me that got COVID that day. It was other people at 1040.
Well, it sparked a huge change in the way people are consuming sports media in Vancouver. I just want to get your take on how the dominoes have fallen. What do you make of how that sparked a change, where all these different personalities have ended up, and how it's kind of changed the industry?
You can piece together 1040. That's the other thing, is that people have found their way to the avenues that I mentioned, but you can listen to Halford and Bruff on 650. You can, between 6 and 9. You can listen to or watch Rick and I between 10 and 12, and then Matt and Blake come on between 3 and 6. So 1040 is still kind of out there. So it's interesting. It's interesting that way.
In your mind, what were the glory days for Vancouver sports media?
Well, I think Sports Page, that whole era. I joined there in '84, left in 2000. I was there a long time, and I just loved it. And not only was it because we kicked ass, and I thought we did a really good job, and I loved that job because I got to report, I got to host, I got to do a whole lot of things, do live events, all of that. It was a just multifaceted job, great people, very talented. All of them have gone on to bigger things. I'm not going to say better things, but maybe bigger things. So there's that. And it wasn't just us. When you went into the locker room, into the Canucks locker room, you'd be in these big scrums, and the province would be there. The Sun would be there separately. BCTV, CBC, VTV back in the day, all this competition, all the radio stations, NW, eventually TSN 1040, us. it was a really vibrant situation. I really don't know where things are going. I find media maybe a little controlled right now. So many people are either fans of the teams they cover, which I don't think is right, or they're employed by the teams they cover.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting time. That's another thing that attracted me to Czech, is that it's independent. We can kind of do and say what we want, and the only people that can do something about it is Czech, and they just want us to do a good job. And if we have strong opinions, that's fine. But that era was Sports Page for me. For myself, 84 to 2000. For Sports Page itself, I'm going to say 1977 to 2005. It was just a wonderful era, and where there was a show that focused on what's happening local, as opposed to what happened at Leafs practice today. It really was great.
I was going to ask you what's missing now, and you kind of touched on it earlier in the conversation. Maybe my opinion is things are a bit vanilla and homogenized when we're talking about kind of mainstream broadcasts. Yeah. Do you think that's missing? I mean, is there a huge hole there for something a bit more edgy and some freedom to be creative when you're on air?
There's definitely a hole, but look at what just happened. They let go of Dan O'Toole at TSN. I love that show. I still love it, seeing Jay there. I can tell he misses. This is just what I've seen. I can tell he misses Dan. I love that show. It was edgy. It was funny. Sports is supposed to be fun. Those guys did it better than anybody. And then all of a sudden, Dan's gone. And now everybody, it's funny. We have this diversity going on right now. I'm not going to go redneck. I'm not going to go Trump on you. Don't worry about it. We have all this diversity. There's men, there's women, there's all sorts of races who are represented on everybody's the same. Everybody is kind of the same person. I don't find very few people within the realm of sport that are separating themselves like we talked about at the start of the interview. They're all kind of just kind of there.
At least risk possible.
Jay's the best. I think he's just tremendous. Everybody else is safe, not funny, not entertaining.
This one's pretty off topic, but I was doing some homework for this interview, and I came across the tribute you wrote to your brother, 2014, right. And I remembered that when it happened, but I reread it. My mom passed away from cancer, so it kind of hit me, and it made me think about. Yeah, no, so it's okay. It's a while ago. What made me think about is how it feels like it was yesterday, and that was 2008. Yes. What does it feel like for you? How long ago does 2014 feel like for you, and how often do you think about your brother?
I think about it every day. Like you said, I had 3 brothers, and Dave was the one I was closest to. And I think about it every day. It was just horrible. It's funny. I forget how this came up, but I'm going to go a little bit off in another avenue here. But there was a problem at a hospital recently with somebody who's had a relative dying. And the problem was that a relative of somebody who was on their deathbed, I hate to use that term, was giving him a vanilla milkshake every day. And you're not supposed to do that because it backs them up. I was doing the same thing with my brother. I was getting him a vanilla milkshake at Dairy Queen every day. And I was told not to do it. But this went on for 2 or 3 weeks. But it just seems like yesterday, tough period. He was only 62 when he passed away. And just somebody who was really, really influential. And probably the person that got me into sports more than anybody else. And he was, like I say, a great athlete. So I used to go watch him play lacrosse all the time. He got to play high-level junior lacrosse for Burnaby Campbell-Vision, into the pros, WLA as well. And he was just somebody who I just adored and got me into it. So I think about him all the time. Wish he was still here, as I'm sure you do with your
I do. And last question here, and I don't know if your brother was a big Lions fan, but I know you've talked about it in the past. And my boss is a massive Lions fan. He's just a bit younger than you, and he said you have to ask him this question. He's heard you talk before about the 70s and 80s. The Lions were as big, if not bigger, than the Canucks. Yeah. He's like, ask Don if he thinks there's any scenario he can see where that happens again, where the Lions move to that level and the Canucks are below.
Just the NHL is so big right now. Its product is so good. I think when we were growing up, and you can ask your boss this, we tend to look across the country, right? We tend to look at what the CFL was doing, what the Rough Riders were doing, what the Argonauts were doing, the Leafs, the Oilers, the Habs, whatever. Now I think our country looks more south. than anything else. And we look at what the NFL is doing, what the NBA is doing, and in large part because the access is there. And those sports come across so well on television. It's hard not to get into it. And our country is so big. It's not like we can jump in a car and go see the Lions play the Red Blacks. So that competition from down south, I think, really hurts. So the CFL has that to compete with. And it's also got, and I'm sitting here watching the background, Euro 2020. And by the way, my mom was Ukrainian, so
I just saw what happened there. So
I'm pretty happy right now. So,
yeah.
so that's good. They beat Sweden. Nothing against you.
I'm Scottish, so I had my disappointment.
Well, yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, I'm part too. So
yeah,
right back at you. But there's so much that we can see now. We can see Euro 2020 before we could not that long ago. World Cup, whatever, international soccer. There's just so, we're inundated with so many sports now, and the CFL has to compete against that, and it's tough. And I think the markets where it does the best, in the prairies, Ottawa, Hamilton, is where they've done a really good job of making it an event, making it the thing to do in town, where you can compete with what's going on down south because it's so much fun. And somehow, and when BC Place was hopping, and Empire was great, but when BC Place was hopping, it was the place to be for everybody. People who weren't necessarily football fans would go to a Lions game because it was so darn fun. And they got to somehow get back to that. And a lot of it has to do with venue. We'll see what happens. I want it to succeed, but I know people, your boss will know. We'll find it hard to believe that when I came back from up north in the 80s, the Lions were way bigger than the Canucks. It was packed 50,000 people at BC Place. I hope it gets back there. I think they need to get rid of this focus on international football. Just focus on what's going on in Canada. Make every game an event. And I have actually got a list of things that I think the CFL could do. And I've been promising this for a long time on Donnie and Dolly. I'm going to deliver it. Tell your boss and everybody else to keep watching. One day it'll come out. It'll come out before August. And maybe it'll help things.
You mentioned the venue too, Empire. I got a taste of Empire for the first time in Whitecaps opener when they beat Toronto.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely
wonderful day.
It was unbelievable. It was one of the best sporting experiences. That I thought, man, that turned me into, I want to get back, go to Kamloops and to Vancouver every weekend to watch the Whitecaps. So I bet that stadium just doesn't have the amenities anymore. But that's the type of vibe they need to bring back for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. I know Greg Kerfoot wanted to build a stadium on the waterfront.
Yeah.
That may or may not have been shared with the Lions. I mean, I think that would just be the answer. With the CFL, the facility and the star and the coach have to be the stars. Because the players are going to come and go. And,
that's actually true in the MLS too. I mean, the players come and go so often. We're talking about my boss. He has this weird obsession with Thordarson, and he said he stopped being a Whitecap once they let him go.
The Icelandic tactician. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hey, I appreciate the time and giving me some extra time too, Don. It was awesome to talk to you, and thanks again.
Hey, Marty, anytime, and all the best. And again, I hope I didn't ramble too much, but thanks so much.
Man, that was fantastic. I appreciate it all. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.
You can catch that full interview on Kamloops Last Week YouTube page. Subscribe, be part of the Last Week clique. Chris, just your thoughts on Don Taylor.
Man, no matter how much you like Don Taylor or think he's a good guy, when you watch an interview like that, or if you ever meet him, he is so genuine and he's so insightful, and he just seems like such a nice, passionate guy. He's passionate about sports, about local sports, about his job.
You can catch Donnie and Dolly weekdays, 10 a.m. to noon on Czech TV, on the podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook. I want to thank Levi Sampson of Czech Media Group. I know the Sampson family. They're great people. He helped set up that interview, as well as Kurt Appleby, Customer Care and Patrol Team Supervisor here in Kamloops. And Kurt, I promise you we're going to feature one of your folks on our show here in the coming weeks. But right now, Chris, we're going to hear more from you in Above the Folds.
I wanted to focus on a community organization in town that always needs help staying afloat and doing a great job. It's the Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association out by the airport. And it's a nonprofit group that offers sort of equine therapy for youth at risk, for people with disabilities. And it's a really, really neat place. And And they've had a lot of older horses, but the news here is they just got enough money funding that they bought a brand new horse, 4 years old, I think, and they can really train it to do a good job out there.
Before we get to the interview, I think you have a story about your experience with horses.
No, you asked me earlier if have I ridden horses, and I was going to say, you know, in Abbotsford back in the day, I rode horses almost every single day, believe it or not, until I had to stop one day.
Really?
Yeah, ran out of quarters.
Oh boy.
See,
no.
You get that and this on this show for free. There you go.
You actually sent me on an assignment when I was an intern. Do you remember, to go out and ride a horse?
Yes, I do. I remember that, yes.
Yeah, it was. I think they gave me like the fattest, slowest horse, and I think I broke that horse's back.
I think you did. I think we got a call from the SBCA the next day, and it was almost a story.
It might have to go to the Therapeutic Riding Association. That's enough of the horseplay, though. Let's check this interview out with Ashley Sudds, Executive Director of the KTRA.
So for those new to town, or those who have been here but have only vaguely heard of the Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association, how about you tell us what it does, who it helps, and how you do that?
Sure. So we've actually been around since 1988. So for over 30 years, which is very exciting. And we take children and adults that have a diagnosis, whether that's a physical or a mental diagnosis, from a medical professional, and they learn how to ride a horse. So we do teach riding skills through therapeutic horseback riding lessons. And our instructors have taken special training, and we are certified as therapeutic riding instructors to work with this type of clientele.
Okay.
And then along with the medical diagnosis, we also do a youth at risk program. That is not on horseback, that's just on the ground working with the horses. But it's a very unique and interesting program for those youth to be part of. There's a lot of life skills that you can learn from working with a horse just on the ground.
What does being on a horse and being around a horse, how does that help them?
There are multiple benefits. So just to start with some of the physical ones, you know, there's hand-and-eye coordination. If someone is in a wheelchair and they don't have the use of their legs, when you walk on a horse, it actually moves your hips and your legs as if you were walking.
Right.
You know, it builds muscle tone. It helps with your balance. You have to use a lot of core when you're on a horse. We have riders that have struggled to like sit up. And so being on the horse and being moved that way helps them strengthen those muscles so that they actually, you know, can start to slowly be able to build that and then sit up taller every ride. And then on the mental side of things, you know, you work on communication skills. It can be very social, even if you're in a private lesson, because you have to communicate with an instructor and a volunteer. And usually those are people that are outside of your, you know, family or your bubble that you are very comfortable with.
Right. Okay.
And then being on the horse, you know, it gives the people that don't have that mobility a chance to be independent mobily.
Right.
It also builds your confidence because you're being able to, you know, work with in a partnership a 1,200-pound animal.
Right.
And that's really cool to see people be like, wow, I can make this horse like walk on and steer and stop and do all this stuff all by myself. And for some people who need so much support physically, it's so cool to see them be on a horse and be so independent.
So you've worked with horses before from Langley and elsewhere. So you're, and the staff there are basically horse experts. What makes the horse such an ideal animal as opposed to something else for this type of endeavor?
Well, on the mental side of things, they're silent, right? You know, they don't, you know, you could tell them all your secrets. Sometimes we go around and we just say, you know, go do a warm up and you go tell that horse everything that has bugged you today.
Yeah.
You know, or you go and tell them anything that's on your mind. They can't repeat it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's sort of a cool friend to have.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
It's like different than, you know, going and like working out or like going for a run. Like you get to work with a horse and you get to play games while you do it and learn different riding patterns. And then sometimes we even take the riders out for like a little what we call a trail ride down the river trail.
Yeah.
You know, and then they get to see other stuff while they're out on a horse. And I think it's just like a very well-rounded experience for them.
Do horses have to be trained to do this? Are they just innately, that's part of why you use them, because they're already ready to be therapeutic?
Not necessarily. Not every horse is a great therapy horse. They do have to go through, you know, a checklist of things that we're looking for. They have to be the right build. You know, they're carrying riders that struggle with balance.
Right.
And so you want to make sure that the horse can handle that just physically themselves, that unbalanced rider isn't going to cause them a lot of discomfort.
Right.
And then, you know, also their personality. Are they able to handle multiple people working with them? Are they able to handle a client who maybe is nonverbal and can only express themselves through noises?
Right.
And, you know, that horse has to be able to maintain their composure while they're working with a client. And I know that we have some horses that have worked with clients like that, and they are just so stoic through the whole lesson, and then you go and turn them out and they go and have a roll, and I think that's them sort of releasing everything that they had to hold in for that lesson. And our horses are pretty cool because we're at a unique location by the airport. And so, you know, not only are they working with different clientele, but they also have planes landing and taking off over top of them, literally.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that takes a special horse too. So not every horse is capable of handling those things, but we search for the ones that are, and we're very thankful for the ones that we have that are able to do this sort of career.
Now, on the website that I was perusing, you have horses, and they're all between 14 and 21 years of age. I assume that they've been donated, but recently you, for the first time, just bought your first horse, a younger
That's
horse.
right.
How does this change the game?
We're super excited about Nala. Lots of horses that we get have already had previous careers, or maybe they have a minor injury that has stopped them from being able to compete, but they're still able to do, you know, flat work with us. And Nala, she's just turning 4. And this will be the start of her career. So she's going to have a full career as a therapeutic riding horse. And it's sort of neat because we can really expose her to a lot at a young age. And we can tailor her to exactly sort of everything that we would love to have in a therapeutic riding horse. And it will be neat to see her growing up in this career instead of having a career before and then coming and then having this as a second career.
And plus she'll be there a long, long time. What's how did you buy her? And on that note, how are you funded? How do you make things work?
So about 48% of our revenue is static revenue, which means that it comes through like rider fees. And then the rest is all through grants and donations. So I'm constantly writing grants, finding funding, and then it's fantastic when someone can donate towards the program. The most challenging part would be finding grants that help us pay like wages and operational costs. Yeah. Because lots of people want to help you, you know, build a shelter for a horse, let's say, for example, but that's not going to pay for our certified instructors or cover the cost of hay for the horses for a year. And if we can't pay for the horses, then we can't provide our unique program.
Can anybody else, other than people with disabilities or youth at risk, can anyone else in the community come and use the services at all, or come and see the horses? Or
so we do have a social enterprise, and that's done in 2 ways. We do offer some community riding lessons. So those are for anyone in the community, children or adults that don't have a physical or mental diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And then we also do summer camps.
Right.
And so those are 2 ways that people are still able to sign up and participate and enjoy the horses.
Okay, final thing here. I want people to know where they can go on the website to look into summer camps, to look at donations, to look at what fundraisers you have going on, and just to learn more about the Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association. Give me a website, email, or a phone number or whatever.
Yeah, so our website has all of that information, and it's super easy to remember. It's www.ktra.ca.
What did you enjoy most about talking to Ashley?
Well, I enjoyed the most is learning more about the organization. We've done stories on them, but I've never personally done a story or talked to someone from there. So I think it's really neat, and I think it's just their passion, their knowledge, and their desire to help people through horses, and she explained a lot of that there of how the horses help people. I think it's also neat that the general public can also take riding lessons. So if you ever been fascinated by these horses, I take my dog to the dog park right next to it, and every time I'm looking, I'm just amazed by these majestic beasts out there. But if you ever want to just go and learn about horses, touch a horse, ride a horse, they'll let you do it.
The safety thing was, like, how does that work with horses and kids getting on horses, and some of them are developmentally disabled? Mm-hmm. She explained it really well. It's a certain type of horse that they require, and I thought it's really cool how they can strengthen their muscles and work on their communication skills.
Yeah, that's something I learned, and also, as she mentioned there, not all of the people who use the service go on the horse. It could be as simple as standing next to the horse and getting that feeling from the horse and petting the horse, which does wonders.
Where can we find that?
Yeah, it's in the if you do go to Facebook and you type in Kamloops Therapeutic Riding Association, all the information is there, and I also believe they're at ktra.com.
I also know a man who has a horse in the European Soccer Championship still, and we're going to meet him in our next segment, which is this week. There he is, looking good on the screen there. Kamloops this week in the Italian flag. It's Michael Potestio. Chris, who is Michael Potestio?
Michael Potestio is slowly becoming a legend in journalism circles in Kamloops. He's our reporter for Kamloops this week. He's been with us for a few years. He's a great guy. He works hard, and he's covering a beat. He's being funded through the Local Journalism Initiative, which is a news media Government of Canada program that helps keep newsrooms alive, and we're appreciative of that. And his focus then through that program is to report on how COVID and the post-pandemic recovery is affecting the marginalized, the people who maybe need more help than others, and he's doing a wonderful job on that.
Well, and it ties in perfectly to one of the themes we've been talking about with the North Shore and some of the stuff that's going on there, and Michael's going to come and join us right now to talk about that. Michael, how are you doing today?
Hey guys.
Hi, Mike.
Thanks for that intro there. Wow.
Well, that's in lieu of a raise, so there you go.
Can we talk soccer before we talk about North Shore? A big game for Italy today. How tuned in are you going to be?
Well, I know it's a work day, but hopefully, with us working from home now, I can sneak in a few views here.
You don't have to suck up to the boss. We know you're going to be watching the game and not working. Chris, let's jump into it, though. Why don't we start with some questions for Michael about the North Shore?
Okay, so Michael's been covering a lot of things in Kamloops, obviously, but lately there's been a lot of stuff happening on the North Shore, as readers know. There's been break-ins at the Jamaican Kitchen twice. There's been lots of vandalism out there. There's a number of social agencies out there trying to help the people who need the help, but within that, there's a bunch of bad actors, I would say. So Michael, explain really what's happening down there, the dynamic between some of the businesses, the Ask Wellness Society, the Loop, the security situation. What's happening there?
Yeah, so what's been going on recently, I guess, is that, we had and what kind of got us reporting on it was the couple of break-ins in the last 6 weeks over at Jamaican Kitchen. And, the owners there, nice couple, but when I was talking to them for this story, they seem to think that, some of the people who use Ask Wellness services next door and also frequent the Loop might be responsible for these break-ins here. And essentially, you have Ask Wellness people in the marginalized community accessing those services all the time, and Ask also has a couple of housing units behind there at Spirit Square. And then you have the Loop Drop-In Center, which is, I think, been labeled a nuisance property by the city of Kamloops, but it's kind of a one-of-a-kind thing on the North Shore, and it's kind of just a place for that population to get to kind of congregate and get out of the heat, access services, meals especially. And it's all just kind of come together where we've seen these groups here, a little bit of an uptick in crime, I guess, is what some of the social agencies have said they've noticed in the businesses there, and they're just kind of looking at ways to handle it here. And
now, you spoke to the owners of the Jamaican Kitchen on a number of occasions because they seem to be getting targeted over and over, and they're frustrated as heck. And the community response to them has been fantastic. A lot of businesses and people reached out and helped fundraise for them to get back get things fixed. Why do they think the people from these agencies, the people who are using these agencies' services, why do they think they're involved? Explain that angle.
Yeah, I asked them. They were just straight up about that, and I guess their feelings are after the first break-in, they had their doors smashed in, and some booze and other things taken, a hanging plant, and afterwards they saw some people in the alleyway there drinking that beer, which is an exclusive order that they get in, and apparently no one else drinks in town, so that was sort of incriminating there. And also they saw one of their hanging plants over at the Loop, so they've obviously come to kind of suspect people who access those services are now also committing crimes there. You talk to the social agencies there, talk to Glenn Hilke over the Loop, he said that hanging basket came from one of his chefs, and it's the same one that the owners of Jamaican Kitchen bought over at Costco. And apparently the owners of Jamaican Kitchen, when they talked to that group, they said that they didn't steal the booze, and it came from another guy who got it from another guy.
Yeah.
No, regardless of who you blame and point the finger at, how much is this affecting the Jamaican Kitchen's business, and how would you measure their level of anger and how upset they are right now with what's happening?
You come into a busted window, and instead of just being able to go right in and start your day and begin prepping for meal service, now you have to deal with this whole situation, sweep up glass, and you really got the sense, I saw from seeing that video and talking to them afterwards, that they were very frustrated at the whole thing, and just because it puts you behind, and these people are small business owners, and they're innocent in all this, and they're just trying to make a living, and then they have to deal with these kind of extracurriculars.
On top of all this, a new group has formed in town. They're called the Kamloops Citizens for Change, and they're a group of people who while they acknowledge that we have a problem that has to be addressed through a health and mental health window, they're really fed up and they want something done now. They see the open drug use and the services as more enabling, and they want a more old school enforcement approach. What did you take from talking to them for our story?
Yeah, I talked to the two founders for Kamloops Citizens for Change, and I got the sense, that these are just regular people. That this is all new to them. Like when I spoke to the organizers, they didn't even really know who our city councilors were, and basically what they just want is they see and hear about crime, especially with social media and everything like that, people posting about it and everything like that. So you see it all over the place, and they basically just want whoever's responsible to fix it. But I think what they found since starting the group, talked to one of the organizers there, she's realizing that it's just, it's easier said than done, and there's a lot of different organizations, a lot of different silos here that all have an impact on the issue, and there isn't really any magic bullet. But the great thing about the group there is that they basically want, at the legislative level, to basically say, something needs to be done, and we're going to keep making noise until things change. And I think that's a good thing when you see these grassroots initiatives trying to affect change through the policymakers.
Yeah.
Michael, you live on the North Shore. Your family lives on the North Shore. Have you noticed in your daily life an uptick in crime over the years? I mean, is it blatantly obvious to you what's happening out there?
It's funny because you hear, as a reporter covering this thing about crime all the time, and I myself have not, knock on wood, been affected by it too much. I haven't seen a lot of it myself. You've seen it kind of on the periphery, but they haven't really been impacted by crime so much. But you definitely hear about it, and you definitely do see it. And it is an issue on the North Shore, but it really is an issue all over Kamloops. I think if you take, we get weekly stats from the RCMP about thefts from motor vehicles. And yes, there is often a higher concentration each week, say on the North Shore or the downtown on average, but oftentimes there isn't. And sometimes it'll be Sahali or Valley View where the most thefts and petty crimes like those occur. So it really is an all over town issue. I think if anybody thinks that, I think the North Shore maybe gets a little bit of a bad rep because it's an older part of town, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the kind of certain assumptions and everything like that. But just being a reporter, I gotta say, and in my own experience, you really do see crime all over Kamloops.
Well, anecdotally, I've been broken into my vehicle 3 times, and I live in Upper Sahali, so.
And at True at once too.
At TRU once as well. Once in the Fox and Helm parking lot too. I left it for a sleep over there, and it got broken into.
Yeah. Well, that's it's a good summary, Michael, and you're right, and they're right, and the group's right, and everybody's right. It's a complex issue. We spoke to councillors Bill Sarai, Dale Bass, and others, Mayor Ken Christian, and even they, as they try it, they have to hurdle so many different agencies that it's really hard. But if you look at all the supportive housing going on in the city, some of which people are opposed to, but it is a way to get people off the streets into supports. It's not like you say, it's not a quick fix thing. It's a very long way to go. And I'm not sure what the answer is, because even I get frustrated when I see things happening over and over again. And there is a fine line between being compassionate and then getting tired of it and wanting enforcement. So that's, I think, where this group is coming from. Mm. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for your time. That's good.
Wait, Chris, before we let him go here, a question. I haven't done any Italian accents today, and I'm not going to do it. But I want to ask you about the difference between a North Shore Italian and a South Shore Italian.
Oh, yes. Yeah. North Shore versus South Shore Italian. Yeah, I think you find a high concentration of my family, especially, and other Italian immigrants on the North Shore.
So it's not so much North Shore versus South Shore. It's just North Shore is where you find a conglomeration of your folk.
Yeah, absolutely. My kin, we all live here. We love it here. It's great soil for growing our gardens and our tomatoes. And we're really hoping that we don't get too much damage from this heat wave here. It's various times.
Well, speaking of gardens and tomatoes, our new sponsor, New Leaf, thanks you for coming on today too, Michael. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, get to work.
I'll do it.
Chris, any final thoughts on the show?
No, good show. Good show. I learned a lot about horses, and I hope our viewers did. And watching the interview with Donnie Taylor was a highlight. Just watching it, never mind having you interview him. And Michael Potestio. It's good to find out what's happening local news, and of course Herman.
Herman gives the show a thumbs up today. Obviously,
he nice to meet Herman.
Doesn't have much to say, but he says great show today. I'm sure.
Well, he deals in actions, not words.
Yeah,
as you can see with this bounty here.
Yeah, he speaks softly but carries a big cucumber.
That's right.
I probably can't use that. We'll see. Thanks to all our guests today. Don Taylor, once again. He's the kind of guy, when you watch him on TV, he's the kind of funny where you want him to be on the couch with you. He has that way of connecting with the audience, and that interview was a highlight for me for my career. So thanks, Don Taylor, again. Catch him on Donnie and Dolly. I do want to thank one more time our sponsor, New Leaf, for all of you South Shore elitists who never go to the North Shore. Make a change, okay? It's right across the Overlanders. Once again, thanks Magic Mike and Bonnie, to the Grand Ones for the music that they provide, and we'll see you last week.
Last week.